Well, that's quite a wall.
Hey, Virginia?
Wow.
Is that a neat wall? This is it, they're using it as a desk, it looks like.
Okay, so you're gonna want, you're gonna wanna talk to the, Secretary of State Post Office, 71324.
There's the original computer.
Yeah, came with it. So this is pretty cool. This is the desk itself. This was the...
Cool, I'm just gonna get some pics.
Okay, hi Virginia.
Hello.
You got a cold?
I know, when you're doing my spiritual stuff, showing off the desk?
Yeah. You know Nancy West, don't you?
No.
Virginia
Hi, nice to meet you.
Drew, she's the director of the Visitor Center.
Nice to meet you. Do you want us to remove the stuff
Do you
off,
want
or do
us-
they want
No,
to?
you can leave it.
Not the story.
Sure.
Your picture in here?
My picture?
Yeah. You're the director of the visitor center.
Yeah.
You're the face
I'll,
of New
I'll
Hampshire.
stand with
She's
Bill.
She's the face of New Hampshire.
There.
So how this was brought back here actually is Jeff Patterson from LBA was on his lunch break and he was down on the on Store Street.
Jeff, you want to start with, this was in the Statehouse from the Civil War on?
Yeah, would you bring it up to where it, when it
Okay,
was moved?
okay.
And here's actually a picture of it in here. If you want to see that?
Oh.
When I was in the House, and this was right in front of Section 5, this table.
It's right here. That's the table.
Oh, do you mind?
This is it right here. Excuse me. That's this
And the
actual table.
reporters had direct access to the floor of the House. Reporters could just come and go during the session. And this was their desk, right here.
So they got to see all the body language, they got to see,
They were
you
just
know,
like
the
members.
little individual caucuses that were taking place to strategize. They got to see all that, and then they got separated out into the,
Well, they're still allowed on the floor of the House. They're just in the back now. They're not in the front. So they're still in there. The press is still always in there. They don't have their own tables any longer.
Right.
But it was a much different time,
yeah.
and it was a much different media that they used in. It was all print media. It was all. I mean,
And we
they weren't
paid them.
broadcasting there, and we actually paid them to cover the legislature. Back in those days.
Oh, really?
They were paid to cover the legislature.
Now,
'Cause
I
it
know
wasn't-
that, that's news to me.
So, I
They
mean,
were
there's
paid by the state?
by the state to cover by the legislature to cover the
So
legislature.
the people
by
would
the
know what
branch.
the laws were.
Because they
Oh,
wouldn't
okay.
know otherwise, because there was no instant communication, 24/7 instant, it wasn't there.
How many
So-
roughly reporters were there then?
Well, I think there was, well, you can see there was probably 4 or 5. They didn't want to, New Hampshire's notoriously frugal, so you didn't want to pay too many reporters.
Do you know what the pay? Do you know what the pay was?
I don't. Virginia, do you know the pay? This was,
Because someone asked them.
I'm gonna get some pics.
okay. Hi, Virginia.
Well, the pay for the legislature was the same.
You got a cold? Yeah, so that was the same.
There was, the House had a
Showing off the
policy,
desk?
Yeah,
had adopted
you know
a
Nancy
policy
West, don't
paying
you?
newsmen $50 a session.
Virginia
Since the
Hi,
legislature
Drew,
went
she's
into
the director of
biennial
the
in
Visitor Center.
1879. But the gift was raised to $100 for the 1887 session, and that rate
Sure.
continued until the practice terminated
picture?
20 years
Yeah.
later.
Right.
This is from
You're
to
the
this
director of
day.
the visitor center.
Yeah.
You're the face
So
of
the session wasn't a
I'm
session
with
day, it was
Bill.
the whole session. She's the face of
No,
the
session.
a session, so it was like the beginning of the session, and it wasn't by
So,
annual session. How this was brought back here actually
What
is
was
Jeff
the
Patterson
year
from
of
LBA was on his lunch break, and he was
Copy
down
this.
on
It's
the
so weird
on
that I
Store
had just
Street.
made this
I
copy
know.
for someone.
Jeff, you want to start with,
It was
this was in the
started,
Statehouse
so
from
they
the
agreed to
Civil War
provide
on.
350
Yeah,
copies.
we bring it up to where it, when it
allocate
was moved.
as all
Here's actually a picture of it in here.
anticipated session.
You wanna see that?
Well, that's
When I
for
was
2
in the
months.
House,
Right. So it's pretty good pay for 2 months back
Yeah,
then.
and the final
This
payment was
was
boosted to $250.
right in
The
front
papers
of
were the
Section
Concord
5,
Monitor,
this
Concord
table.
People,
It's right here.
and Patriot, the Manchester
table.
Mirror,
Oh, do you
and the
know-
Manchester Union.
This is it right here.
And the reporters were given 100% emolument
That's
And the
actual
increase
reporters
by the
had
legislature for their
direct
work.
access to the
because
floor
of
of the House.
protracted
Reporters
deliberations.
could just come and go during the session.
Long-winded, in other words.
And this was their desk.
That
So
was
there was
before
a-
Ralph Huff So they got
So
to
there
see
was,
all the
four.
body language.
So this-
So that
this
answers
was
your
the-
question
They
there.
were
You
just
know,
like
the
them
little
use this.
individual
Until
caucuses
the
that were taking
legislature
place to
decided to have an
strategize.
electronic roll call.
They got to see all
And when
that.
they
and
went to
then
the
got
electronic roll
separated
call
out
in
into the-
late '74.
Well, they're still
early
allowed on the floor of the
75,
house, they're just in the
they
back now,
decided
they're
they
not
were
in the front.
invest
So they're
the
still
money
in there, the
and
press
have
is
a
still
system.
always in there, they don't have their own tables
They
anymore.
did a little
But it was a much
renovation.
different time,
Rep
and it was a
Hall.
much different media
Part of
that
it
we,
was
that they used, it was all
getting rid
print
of
media,
this.
it was all, I mean,
And we
they weren't
paid them.
broadcasting that.
so
And we
the
actually
death
paid
in
them to cover the legislature
1975,
back in those
went
days.
away.
Oh, really?
They were paid to cover the legislature.
not to be seen.
Because it wasn't, it's unknown.
It wasn't,
I
they
mean,
were
there's,
paid by the state.
no, by the state to cover the, by the legislature to cover the
Surplus?
legislature.
People didn't know what the laws were.
Because there
Went
were
to the
no other laws,
state
because there was no
hospital grounds.
instant communication
It went
24/7.
Above the shop.
known as the paint
It wasn't
shop.
there. And Bill and I went to look
Roughly
for other
reporters were there
artifacts
then?
actually after we
I think
found
there
it.
was, well, you can see there,
And
there was
then
probably
it
4 or
was, so it
5.
just,
They didn't want to,
it
New
left, it
Hampshire's
left
notoriously
the
frugal, so you
scene
didn't want to pay too many reporters.
Do you know what
until.
do you know what the
This
pay
guy-
was?
I don't.
So then
Virginia,
we
do you
picked
know
it
the
up
pay?
because this, well, what happened was they were cleaning up, the fire marshal said you gotta clean things up in the paint shop. So they surplus this thing. So they went out, not knowing what it was, no
There was,
history
the
about
house
it or
had
anything, and our
policy, had adopted
marvelous,
policy of paying newsmen $50
curatorial
since
director
the
at the
legislature
time.
went in the biennial in
Bona contingent with me,
1879. But the
I don't
gift
even know
was
what
raised
his
to
name.
$100.
Decided this wasn't
for the
worth a dime and just ship it out the door.
1887 session.
So
And
it
that rate
got sold
continued until the
at
practice
the White
terminated
Farm for,
20 years
I don't
later.
recall the price.
This
was
is
it
from to this
$300
day.
or something like that.
Either
Right.
50,
And it, so the
the
session
session
wasn't
wasn't
a
a
session,
session
because he
day,
said
it
the
was a full
round
session.
table was only worth a
So
hundred.
the termination,
A session, so it was like the beginning of the session, and
The
the exact
exact
price
price
they
they
gave, but I know it was,
annual
I
session.
gave him a lot more when I bought it.
so what was
it
the
seemed to
year?
me it was,
Well, I can give
You
you a
went to
copy of
the
this.
White
It's so
Farm.
weird that I had just made this
I
copy
took
for
you,
someone.
I went and picked you up and said, come on, Bill, we're gonna go
it
check
was
this out, see if there's any other artifacts about the
I
paint
They
shop.
agreed to
It was
provide
either
350
$50
copies daily for
Could've been
$1
$100.
each.
It wasn't
as all
much, because I was
concerned
giving
in
the guy,
anticipated
what
session
angered me is I
would
said, this
last
thing
for
should have
2
never even
months.
left our possession.
It's pretty good
It got
pay for 2
sold,
months.
so the
Yeah,
antique
and the
dealer
final
bought it
payment
down on
was
Store
listed to
Street.
$250.
Jeff Patterson was
Papers
on
was
his lunch
Concord
break,
Monitor,
came up, I
Concord
was house
People,
chief of staff at the
and
time.
Patriot.
And he said, Terry, he
Manchester
says,
Mirror,
I don't know if you're
and
gonna
the
be interested in this, but I
Manchester
saw the
Union.
New Hampshire House
The
Reporters
reporters were
table
given 100%
down at this
emolument
antique shop, and I said,
increase
you're
by the
kidding me.
legislature
He goes,
for
no,
their
it's on,
work
it's down there, it's for sale
because of
for,
protracted
I
deliberations.
don't know, I paid $800, but it was, it was for
Well,
sale
I
for
went there.
$1,100 or something.
So you can have that.
And so there was,
For Ralph
I said, okay, I said, well, so there was 4. It's really the
So that
reporter's
answers
table.
your
I said, how the
question.
hell did that get down there? So I went down and got Bill. I said, Bill, come with me. I
until
said,
the
Jeff Patterson
legislature
just told me there's an
decided to have an
antique
electronic
artifact
roll
from our house
And when
furniture
they
down
went to the
there.
electronic
So
roll
he and I
call
went down to the store,
in late
and we were sitting there
74,
talking, sure enough, I said, let's
75, when they
authenticate
decided they
it.
were
You were
gonna
here, Bill, you know what it looks like.
invest the
We
money
pulled out the
and
drawers,
have a system.
and there's writing in the drawers
They did a little.
of what it is,
renovation
1913, and
in Rep Hall.
you know, signatures within the drawers themselves.
Signatures from
Getting
From the
rid of
reporters and,
reporters?
They
yeah.
signed
Very
it when
cool.
they
They signed
retired.
Very
So the
cool.
death
So we said, yes,
in
this is it. So
75
then some other
went
fellow, while
away.
Bill and I are negotiating, and actually I'm negotiating
Not to
with the
be
shop
seen.
owner
The
saying,
parts
listen, you gotta
unknown.
give me a break here, I'll buy it back, and I understand you had to move it, and I'll give you a little bit of profit, but this never should have left the state's
Surplus?
possession. I don't know how you got it, and
Went to
I'm angry
the
at the curator for
state
not
hospital
offering it back and selling house
Above
property
the
without,
shop.
known as the paint
you know, the
shop.
permission of the house.
Bill and I went to look for other
So
artifacts.
some other
actually,
fella
after we
is
found
behind Bill and I,
And then
and he's hearing this
it was so
conversation,
just-
and he says, I'll buy it right now for
It
your
left,
asking price.
it left.
I said, whoa, 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 you can't be doing that. He goes, I'm gonna buy it right now.
It just became Sotheby's in there.
So I said, you're not buying it. I said, I'm buying it right now. Here's my credit
Fire
card.
marshal
You
said you gotta
agreed to
clean things
$800,
up in
that's
the
what I'm
paint
paying
shop.
you. So they
Let's get
surplus
this,
this
let's
thing.
close this deal
So they
now.
went
I'll
out
get
not knowing
reimbursed.
what
I
it
don't
was,
care.
no
It's
history
not
about it
moving.
or
I'm buying
anything,
it
and
now.
our
So I gave my credit card,
marvelous,
I bought it, said, Billy, we gotta get this thing back.
curatorial
He gave us a
director
van.
at the time.
He got one of his vans from,
Bona
we
contingent.
made a time when we were gonna bring it in,
uh,
you've got your van
Regent's
down
name.
there to move it.
Decided this wasn't
We
worth a
moved the
dime and just
artifact
ship it
out
out
and
the
brought
door.
it back, but I
So
mean,
it
it
got
was just-
sold.
that guy was aggressive
at
'cause
the
he's
White
listening to
Farm
us and
for, I don't
realizes
recall
this
the
is
price, was it
you know,
$300 or
Jim
something like
and
that?
rough here, they don't know. It was
$300
$300
I think for this one, because he said the round table was only worth.
And I had to go to 800
I think
bucks.
they might have
I mean, the
given
guy,
300.
I said, I'll give
I
you a
don't
reasonable
recall
profit, but he was
The
killing
exact
me.
price they gave, but I
And he
know. it
wanted
was-
full boat, and then the guy
I I gave him a lot more
pay
than I
for the
bought.
boat, so I had to sneak it out of there
It seems to me it
at
was-
$800. So
You
The
went
state
to the
got-
White Farm with me.
What?
yeah,
$100 for
I
it.
took you.
I had to, I went and picked
pay
you up and said, "Come on, Bill, we're going to go
$800
check this out, see if
So
there's
it
any
cost
other
us
artifacts
$700
about the
to
paint
take
shop
back.
when it never should have left in the first place." That's the craziest story in the world. It wasn't much.
So
because I
then,
was
listen
giving
to
the guy,
this.
what angered me is I said, this thing should have never even left our
You know who
possession.
made the desk?
It got sold, so the
You probably
antiquity
have the
bought it
bill
down
of
on
sale in
Store
our
Street.
house.
Jeff Patterson was on his lunch
Is
break.
somebody here
Came up,
bought-
I was house chief of staff at the time.
Is it the same
He said,
people that
"Terry,"
made
says,
the antique
I don't know if
desks?
you're gonna be interested in this, but I just saw the New Hampshire House
Cut
Reporters
off
table
Joseph
down at the
Wallace.
store, this antique shop, and I said, "You're kidding me." He goes, "No, it's on, it's
different
down there
maker
for
than
sale
the
for."
original
But we would have.
I don't know, I
because we
paid
have the
800, but it
original
was,
furniture.
right,
Might
it
be
was up
right
for
in
$1,100 or
the
something. And I said, okay,
So-
so he goes, I
So we
think
ended up getting it back
really
here,
the
but we
reporter
brought it
station.
to
It's pretty heavy, actually.
So we got all of us
Bill,
together
come
to
with
bring
me.
it
He
in.
says, Jeff
We
Patterson
brought it in
has
and put it in here, because it's a
artifact
pretty big
from
desk, so we
our
didn't really
house
have a good
furniture
place to
down
put it.
there.
But we
So
figured
he
it
and I
was
went
for
down to the store,
for the,
and we're sitting there talking. folks to know how this actually
happened
happened.
and what this.
You were here, Bill, you know what it looks like. You pulled out the drawers, there's writing in the drawers of what it is.
And then we had this desk in the hall.
You know,
and it was there
signatures
for-
within the drawers themselves.
Signatures from the
Reporters and,
They
yeah.
signed
Very
it when
cool.
they
They
were
signed
signed.
Very cool.
So we said, yes, this is it.
Then
So
we
then
went
some
trying
other
to
fellow, while
figure
Bill
out
and I are
where it
negotiating,
came
and actually I'm
Right.
negotiating with the
Whatever
shop
it
owner
was,
saying,
but
listen,
they-
you gotta give me a break here, I'll
Full
buy it back and
negotiation with that
I understand you
other
had to
guy
move it and I'll give you a little bit of profit, but this
I
never
know
should have left the
someone
state's
heard
possession.
about it.
I don't
They
know
were
how
right
you got
behind
it,
us
and
when I was
I'm
talking to
angry
the
at
guy,
the
and
curator
guy
for
says, "I'll
not
buy it right now."
offering
I
it
said,
back
"You gotta be
and
kidding
selling
me.
house
You
property
can't sell
without,
it. It's a state
you know, the permission of the house.
We're gonna get, I said, "I'll buy it," so I gave my
So
credit
some
card.
other fella
So
is
I'll
behind
get
Bill and
reimbursed from the
I,
state later.
and he's hearing
And
this
that's what happened.
conversation. He says, I'll buy it right now for your asking price.
Till the end of that.
I said, whoa, 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 you can't be doing that. He goes, I'm gonna buy it right now.
It just became Sotheby's in there.
I said, you're not buying it. I said, I'm buying it right now. Here's my credit card. You agreed to $800, that's what I'm paying you.
I did get.
I said, let's get this, let's close this deal now. I'll get reimbursed from the state. I don't care. It's not leaving. I'm buying it now. So I gave my credit card, I bought it. Said, Billy, we gotta get this thing back up there. Can you get us a van? He got one of his vans from,
Asking the
we made a
reporters
time
to
when we were gonna bring it in. You got your van down there. Not that I know of. We moved the artifact out and brought it back. I mean, it was just, that guy was aggressive because he's listening to us and realizes this is a, well, that's actually Dr. Ruffield, 20 years post. Nobody knows what it was until we started talking to the guy. And I had to
So
go
they
to
stopped
$800. I mean, the
20
guy, I said, I'll give you a reasonable profit, but he was killing me.
It says the gift-
Terminated 20
the
full
gift
boats,
was
and the guy
raised to
behind me's gonna
100,
pay full boats, so I had to sneak it
and
out of
that
there.
rate
at
continued
$800.
until the
So
practice was
the state got,
So it's
what,
87
$100 for it.
to
I had to
1907.
pay $800 for it, so it cost us $700 to get the thing
1907
back,
that they stopped
when it never
paying.
should have left in the first
So
place.
they're still
That's the
here, the
craziest
desk
story
is
in the
still
world.
here.
Yeah,
And that's at 41.
So then, listen to
Just
this.
stayed there, but I don't think they paid the.
I'm not sure who made the desk. You said the desk was there when you were there. You probably have the bill of sale in archives.
There's somebody here bought it.
Is it the same people that made the antique desks?
As part of the renovation, they were
Cut
putting
off
in the roll call,
Joseph
you know,
Wallace
the,
something.
where you push.
A different
you
maker
know,
than the
yeah,
original
but we would have, because we have the original furniture. Robert.
It might be right in
renovation
under
of the Roberts.
Yeah.
Roberts was speaker.
When this, so we ended
So
up
they
getting it
moved
back
it to
in
the
here.
paint shop.
Brought it
Something
in.
something
Pretty heavy actually, so we got all of us together to bring it in. We brought it in and put it in here, because it's a pretty big desk, so we didn't really have a
Right,
place
it's
to put it.
but the other thing
We
is,
figured it
the
was
drawers
good
used
for
to be on the other
for
side.
the,
This.
Folks to know how this actually
renovation.
happened and what this,
Sit on
what
the
took place
opposite
back in the
side,
days. You literally had to pay
facing
people
the
to
podium.
cover the legislature.
And then when they brought.
And then
the
we had this
front to the
desk
side
in the hall and
because
was there for
So
They were
in
there.
the,
decades.
there were drawers that they
what I remember,
took out
in the
and
on the other side
morning,
block.
we were over
bought
there.
and
Right.
put these
Then
drawers.
they went in trying to figure out where.
They
it came
meeting the
Right.
legislature.
Okay, so it was done.
The whole negotiation with that other guy.
Right, so you see how they're sitting.
I know someone heard of
inside
something.
and that-
Well, they were right behind us when I was talking to the guy, and then the guy says, I'll buy it right now. And I just said, you gotta be kidding me, no, you can't sell it.
I
It's a
have
state
one other.
heirloom for crying out loud. I said, I'll buy it.
Dick, that explains your question.
I'll
about
make
makers.
reimbursed from the state later.
Right out.
And that's what happened.
They only gave us it down until the end of that.
Well, that day, I had to do it that day, that's why I said, I'll just buy it now. Because you only have to, and I can't make the government, I mean, I can make government do a lot of things, but I can't get a check cut like that. So I said, I'll just buy it.
I couldn't fit through that hole now.
So I bought it, I did get, I put in the
Well, what was the benefit
reimbursement
of
paperwork, got
having it on
reimbursed
the
for it later in
floor,
the
having
month or something, didn't
reporters
matter.
right there in the
But we
front?
retained the furniture, and that was
Be
the
right
key.
there and watch it.
Was there an event
They
that
still are, if you look, the
precipitated
Senate still has a reporter's
asking
table.
the reporters to leave
In the
the
Senate, and
floor
we
of
still
the
have,
State House?
not that I know of.
Gallery, basically.
Except for they weren't getting paid, and they stopped paying. They didn't need risers and such back then to film that.
Because they weren't filming.
Well, that's actually in the document, 20 years post.
Well, it doesn't exactly say that here.
They said they were there a year, they could watch, like you said,
Well,
they could see the goings on.
It says the
and terminated 20
gift
years
was
later.
raised to 100,
During that whole period.
and that rate continued until the practice was terminated.
Right.
20
So it's
years.
87 to 97 to 1987.
at one point, then it got brought back.
So it'd be
down.
1907 that they stopped paying.
So they're still here, the desk is still here
Yeah,
at
and that's at
41.
41, so the desk stayed there, but I don't think they paid the reporters. So you said the desk was there when you were there in 76,
I
right?
mean, they didn't go to the podium, but they were asked legislators.
73.
As they walk by.
It was taken
Now,
out in
knowing
75
legislators, I'm sure that they were.
as part of the renovation, when they were putting in the roll call machine, you know, the where you push, you're voting yes,
Yeah,
no.
it's happening.
When that was done, Roberts did a renovation
Where
of the
was the
roster.
roster at that
Yeah.
point?
Roberts was speaker.
When this got removed.
Representatives.
So they moved it to the paint shop, but the funny thing is, I think the guy, one of the reasons I said I'd give him more money too is I think he had done stuff there, which I was angry about because it took some of the natural stuff off, he had redone some.
Right, they agreed, but the other thing is the drawers used to be on the other side. This was a renovation, because we used to sit on the opposite sides,
Notice the
facing
typewriter?
the podium.
There's a block there,
They
and that was an old
brought
mic on a
Onto the
stand.
side, because
And there was one of those big headed mics, and I'm sure that's what they
there were
used.
drawers that they took out
On the other side blocked.
and
But
blocked.
you see, we did.
These drawers.
They
Yeah,
mean-
and they could.
They meaning the legislature.
Okay, so it was done,
That was part of
it was
the
done while it was.
renovation.
Right, so you see how they're sitting on the inside in that photograph?
Yeah, that's what this came from.
But back in the 1800s.
And of course, there's no,
Been on the other side.
voting
because
system
I have one other
41.
picture.
They took the window out.
Dick, that
Roll
explains
calls
your
were-
question about the
were
makeup.
few and far between back then.
Right out.
That's my
Do you know when they
Get it down.
opened the press office,
Oh, they
the
did?
press room on the first
The
floor?
press room was dedicated in 96, I believe, that's the Tibbetts room, that they dedicated as the Tibbetts room, but that was there.
This is the picture.
Yeah, it was there before that, because it was there. I got it in 87, Billy might know
What was
that.
the benefit
I think
of
that was
having
there
it
in
on
the
the
late
floor?
70s, so
Having
that-
four
yeah,
reporters,
that's-
senators,
When it got there, I don't know.
Could be right there and watch everything.
They still are,
there.
if you look, the Senate still. It was there and active, I came in 87 Senate member, we still have a reporters gallery basically on a riser all the way back out. Hey, Bill? They didn't need risers. Do you know when the press room was,
Here's when they're facing.
They take some stills. The other way? Later in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
Up to the 70s.
Might have been there to hear. Oh, the
But they
desk
were
was
there to
off to
hear,
the
they could,
side.
they could watch, like you said, they could see the goings on, and of
Oh,
course, you
yeah,
know, the
yeah.
size of the legislature at that time,
There's-
during that whole period was.
It's on the same side, but it's just facing differently. And see the two mics they used to speak from? They had turned it around.
At one point, then it got
But in this
brought back
picture, it
down.
looks like it's.
So the house was pretty much this way.
Now, could the reporters ask
They
questions
used to
of the
face
lawmakers
to the
as they
podium
walk
and
to the
then they
podium?
switched and had
The podium theater,
I
I
don't
don't know the practice.
It's the same place, it's just turned around. They're facing the membership instead of
I mean, they didn't go to the podium, but they would ask legislators.
And in this picture, you can see the
As
two
they walk by.
mics that they spoke from. And knowing legislators, I'm sure that they were engaging the reporters regularly.
They were engaged.
They would engage them regularly, trying to get their spin on whatever they're doing. The spin had,
Oh,
isn't it when they opened the cabinet?
So where was the roster?
75? Nancy, he says about
Speaking, where
75
did
they
they
opened.
speak
They probably still spoke right here.
They still
Space.
kept the
Probably, yeah.
space in the back of the house.
Yes.
The rise there.
Yeah.
Two.
Yeah.
This was
When they
the-
did the renovation.
Yeah.
See the mic there? See that old mic? This is just a marvelous place to have the audio. Before the typewriter, notice the typewriter. There's a block there, and that was an old mic on a stand. So we had there was one of those big. I was at the White Farm, because I used to shop there regularly with, for stuff for the house, because we're pretty frugal, you know. But you see, we did make them, so we found a, oak desk. We still make them stand, but we gave them a well. And that was part of.
Yeah, they all smoked. The place was banked down to the floor with smoke for crying out loud.
For controlling.
Yeah, that's the actual picture.
And of course, there's no,
Picture in the book.
There's the two mics they used. Instead of wells, they just actually went up and used the mics. This
Roll
is
calls
pre,
were
obviously
few and
pre
far between back then.
75
Do you know when
renovation.
they opened the press office, the press room?
Same clock still
The
there.
press room was dedicated in 96, I believe, that's the Tibbetts room. 1945 is the Tibbetts room, but that was there.
That I had to take.
That was there before that, I mean, because it was there. I got it in 87, Billy might know that.
I think that was there in the
To
late
cut off
70s.
smoking.
Yeah.
After the
When
first
it-
hour
when it got
of
there,
the
I don't
session,
know, because I didn't come to see.
Yeah, that
because-
was there.
you could.
It was there in
smoke
active,
anytime, but after-
I came in
There's so
87
much
as a
smoking
member.
right
There's
there.
a
So one of my first votes
This
was
picture.
to do that. This is how the times
Hey, Bill?
changed, because
Do you know
I
when the
never
press
smoked.
room was,
Here's
neither
when
of my
they're
parents
facing.
ever smoked.
the other way?
But when I
Yeah.
cast
Yeah.
that vote, I remember.
Oh, the desk
I
was
had a
off to
day
the
book.
side in this
So I have my first
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
6-month legislative session. I have
There's-
every day.
It's on the same side, but it's just facing differently. And see the two mics they used to speak from?
During that day.
Yeah.
They had turned it around.
I
In
voted
this picture, it looks
that
like it's more
they
or less. in
this
the
way.
front.
still smoke.
Front.
That,
They used to
that was
face
a
to
free,
the podium
an
and
issue of personal
podium's
freedom.
here?
Yeah.
That,
It's the
because
same
we didn't
place, it's
know
just turned
anything
around.
about the
They're facing
smoke.
the
was-
membership
but
instead
It
of
was
the-
like if somebody
instead of
wanted to
looking at it.
smoke, that's up to them. Who am I to,
And in this picture,
even though
you can
I
see the
didn't
two
smoke, I
mics that
didn't
they
come
smoke.
from a house that smoked.
Why would you infringe on their right to smoke? Yeah. So it was interesting because they were still smoking in the chamber in the anteroom until we did the renovation in 2000.
You know when they opened the reporters?
3 into 4, 'cause
Yeah. So we took the anteroom still had a smoke eater in it, and that was the only place that you could smoke.
He says about
in the
75
chamber
they
still.
opened the reporters.
And that was just, I mean, I had
Still
staff
kept the,
going crazy downstairs, we'd have to
space in
send
the
them
back of the
home.
house.
And when we did the renovation, I
Lines there.
talked to
Yeah.
the speaker, allowing us
yeah,
to
I have the.
stop it. And he was quite angry because he goes, I'm gonna lose the votes of all the smokers.
Just a marvelous.
Says, I can't stop smoking in the anteroom. I said, well, it's a safety issue. I can't not do it. It's a health and safety issue. And so I brought the fire academy over with the smoke generator. So we had and we banked
I
the
was at
thing
the White
full of
Farm,
smoke
so
with
they used to
pina
shop
colada
there
smelling
regularly
smoke
with,
because we could flavor it.
stuff for the house.
And we banked the thing full and charged the whole anteroom full and then
We found
clicked on
a,
the
He found the
oak
picture.
smoke eater. Oh, because the person down in LBA used to complain constantly.
Yeah, they all
she smelled was
smoked.
smoke.
The place was
And she
banked down
couldn't
to the
stand
floor
smell
with
of
smoke
It
for
was
crying
bad
out
for
loud.
her. She had to go home. So every session
Yeah.
day, I'd send that
That's
lady
the
home
actual picture.
and say, take the day off because she's going home sick because she can't stand the smoke.
There's
So as soon
the
as
two
we
mics
clicked
they
on the
used
smoke eater,
instead of wells. They
the
just
smoke
actually went
billowed
up and used
down,
the
went
mics.
right down and
This
into
is
her
pre,
window, so she wasn't
obviously
making
pre,
it up.
Oh, she was
And it rolled
75
right across
renovation.
the portico. So the smoke, because you could see it, it was visual.
Same
because it
clock's
was a
still
smoke
there.
generation machine that the firemen train in.
1945.
And it rolled right down, and it came rolling back through, and I had neglected to call the Concord Fire Department, so they ended up thinking the house, Statehouse was on fire, so they responded, which is pretty funny.
Cut off
So
smoking
we said it, but we
after
proved
the
it,
first
and I said, there's your
hour
proof, we
of
can't
the
have a
session.
smoking room anymore, it's just not gonna
It
work.
did come down here.
And
then
And
there was
everybody
the smoke
smelled it
on
in the
portico
place.
and
The whole
the
time,
smoke
but
on
after,
too.
but
So we
it got
stopped
so
that,
much
and we
smoke in
eliminated
it.
that, and that's gone.
So one of my first thoughts
what year was that?
to do that. This is how the
2003.
times have changed.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Isn't
I
it?
never smoked.
He-
And of course,
My parents said-
prior to that, they had
did
passed the law
so
that there's
much.
been smoking in public
Cast
buildings
that
that you're
vote.
exempt from.
That's-
Sure.
I remember,
So
I was,
We
and I had a day
eliminated that,
book.
and I'll tell you, I
So I
had
have
some
my
angry
first-
members.
I'm sure.
6
Leo
months
Pepino, God
legislative
rest his
session.
soul, was
I have
one of them.
every
He said,
day.
"Kid," he
I
goes,
wrote down
"You can't do
what
that to me." He
I-
goes, "I've got a perfect voting
what
record."
happened.
Leo
during that
Pepino,
day.
he goes, "I've got a perfect
And
voting record. I haven't missed a roll
I
call. And if I'm
voted
not having a cigarette and I
that
missed the roll call because you
they
closed that thing down, I
could
said, you're
still
gonna have hell to pay." He
That-
was so
But
mad.
that was a free,
I said, "Leo, I'll make sure. I'll go get you." Okay, I said, "I'll
That,
get you."
because we didn't know anything about the smoke.
It's pretty funny
But
stuff.
it was like if somebody wanted to
This
smoke,
one's
that's
45.
up to them.
So
Who
that
am I
change
to?
happened.
Even though I didn't smoke, I didn't come
The
from a house
change
that.
of the
The
desk.
turning of the,
Right.
would you
Turning of
infringe
the
on their
desk,
right to smoke?
because
Yeah.
Here in
So it was
45,
interesting because they were still
they're
smoking in the
facing
chamber in the
the
anteroom
other
until we did the
way.
renovation in
But
2000.
there, they're facing out.
Three,
So
four,
they turn.
three, I guess.
3
it was.
into 4, 1941.
So we took the anteroom still had a
But there
smoke
must have
eater
been
in
a
it. And that was the only
practical
place that
reason
you
that
could
they
smoke
did
in
this.
the chamber still.
But I,
And that was just,
For the life
I mean,
of
I
me,
had
I don't
staff
understand what
going
it
crazy
would be.
downstairs. We'd have to send them home. And when we did the renovation,
you
I
can see how,
talked to the speaker to
well, they
allowing
might
us,
have some difficulty.
Are any
stop
of the
it.
same
He was
people
quite angry
doing
because
it?
it goes on
Seems
the
to me
votes
like
of all the
the desk
smokers.
is
I think they were sitting
He says,
on
I
both
can't stop
sides of
smoking in the
it.
anteroom. I said, well, it's a safety
Maybe
issue.
they
I
got
can't
out
not
for
do it.
the
It's a health
picture?
and safety issue. And so I brought the fire academy over with their smoke generator, and we banked the thing full of smoke. It was pina colada smelling smoke because you could flavor it. And we banked the thing full and charged the whole anteroom full, and then clicked on the smoke eater because the person down in LBA used to complain constantly. All she smelled was smoke. And she couldn't stand the smell of smoke, and it was bad for her, and she had to go home. So every session day, I'd send that lady home and say, take the day off because she's going home sick because she can't stand the smoke. So as soon as we clicked on the smoke eater, the smoke billowed down, went right down and into her window, so she wasn't making it
Oh,
up.
she-
And it rolled right across the portico. So the smoke, because you could see it, it was visual, because it was a smoke generation machine that the firemen train in. and it rolled right down, and it came rolling back through, and I had neglected to call the Concord Fire Department, so they ended up thinking the Statehouse was on fire, so they responded, which is pretty funny. So we said but we proved it, and I said, there's your proof, we can't have a smoking room anymore, it's just not gonna
It
work.
did come down here. And then
And
there was
everybody
the smoke
smelled it
on
in the place.
portico, and the smoke
Right.
came in too.
So we stopped that, and we eliminated that, and that's gone now.
That's the.
And what
opposite
year
of
was
this
that?
book Right there.
2003.
See him smoking?
Imagine that,
Yeah.
That's amazing.
isn't it?
Yeah.
And of course, prior to that, they had
Did
passed
so
the law
much
that there was no
on
smoking in public buildings, but
That's
we were
him.
exempt from it.
That's
Sure.
Andy Anderson.
You know, so we eliminated that, and I'll tell you, I had some angry members.
I'm sure.
Leo Papino, God rest his soul, was one of them. He said, "Kid,"
1945.
he goes, "You can't do that to me." He goes, "I've got a perfect voting record." Leo Papino, he goes, "I've got a perfect voting record. I haven't missed a roll call, and if I'm out having a cigarette and I miss the roll call because you closed that thing down, I said you're gonna have hell to pay." He was so mad. I said, "Leo, I'll make sure. I'll go get you. Okay?" I said, "I'll go get you."
So that
It's
picture
pretty funny
is
stuff.
1941. This one's 1945.
45, yeah.
So that change happened right about then.
What changed?
The change of the
The
desk.
turning of the
The
desk.
turning of the desk, because
Yeah.
here in 45, they're facing
The other way.
Side.
the other way. But there, they're facing out. So they turned. See, 1941,
But there must have been a practical reason that they did this. But for the life of me, I don't understand what it would be. I mean, you can see how, well, they might have some difficulty
are any of the same
fitting this
people,
particular
Bill?
form.
in there?
me
like
No, I think they were sitting on both sides of the desk.
Oh, maybe they got up for the picture?
They might have been sitting.
I felt